Last faculty member that's going to visit with you this morning is Dr. Philipe Moriel, and I'll tell you a little story about him. For years, we've tried to hire another beef cattle specialist, animal scientist here at the research center, and we got that done a few years ago, but unfortunately, shortly after their arrival, or a couple years after their arrival as a husband and wife team, the University of Missouri offered both of them positions, and they departed us. And we had invested quite a bit in that program. We're excited to get it up and going. And I was worried that we would go into what we know of as many years of not filling that position and keep requesting it and not filling it. I sent Dr. Payne an email, and probably it was a little bit too long. I was explaining why it was important that we filled it and all of the investment that we had. And he replied back with one line, "John, you have my permission to fill the position." One line. And so that's really remarkable. Any of you that have experience in academia know that if you have somebody leaving a program, and literally within a week or two we had a new person in. And we were really lucky to hire Philippe. He was trained in our UF IFAS program right here in Ona. So he knows this place. He knows this area. He had 3 years of experience at North Carolina State University as a faculty member there before joining us. He's really off to a good start. With that, I'll introduce Philipe Moriel.
Thank you, John. And I also like to start by saying thank you to all of you. And like John mentioned, it was because of your support to this station, the efforts of Dr. Arthington and the faculty here at ONA, and the efforts from the IFAS administration that we were able to refill this position. I'm really honored to be selected for this position. I'm really looking forward to work with all of you. So this morning, I'm going to talk about some of the ongoing studies that we have and what are the research plans that we have for next year. So we're going to focus in 4 major areas. Okay, the first one is nutrition of pregnant cows, and how does that affect the performance of calves in the future. And I'm going to explain a little bit more about this topic in a minute. The second one is pre- and post-calving nutrition of cows, trying to increase pregnancy rates, decrease the length of calving season. Then third area is nutritional management of stressed calves and heifer development. And a fourth area, which I haven't really thought about how I'm going to do it, is about heat stress in pregnant cows. We sometimes lose animals due to heat stroke, right, and then they die. But what are the implications of a pregnant cow that gets heat, that we work in the chute? She gets overheated but doesn't die. What are the implications for the calf? If there's any impact on the calf, what can we do to avoid that? So some of the ongoing studies that we have right now, we have 5 studies going on here in North Carolina and in Brazil. I would like to mention the one that we are doing in North Carolina, because I think it has a lot of implications for the Southeast United States. So in Southeast United States, a lot of producers, they try to take advantage of preconditioning programs to add value to their calf. But unfortunately, not unfortunately, but a lot of producers, they are small producers that they have a full-time job. So the operation is actually a second source of income. So for them, labor and time is really a big issue. So because of that, we saw an opportunity to work with a research area that is we do call decreasing the frequency of supplementation. You guys know about that. It's not a new concept, but it still has a lot of implications, a lot of things that we can work on. This is how it works. Let's say, for example, you feed an animal 3 pounds per day for a week. So that's 21 pounds over a week, right? Let's say that now you decide to feed them 3 times weekly. So you divide 21 by 3 days, that's 7 pounds per day. So you feed 7 pounds on Monday, 7 on Wednesday, 7 on Friday, right? You're still maintaining the same amount of supplement, but you're reducing your labor and time by half. Well, actually, here at ONA, we found out that when we do this to replacement heifers, we decrease the percentage of heifers reaching puberty at the start of the breeding season. But nobody really tried on stress calves, right? Preconditioned calves right after weaning. So if you look at page 61, okay, table 1 in your proceedings, this is a study that we did last year looking at decreasing the frequency of supplementation of calves right after weaning, okay, when they are going through the stress of weaning. So what you guys going to see in that table 1 is that when we reduce the frequency of supplementation, we decrease gain of those steers by 0.6 pounds per day. That's 25 pounds over a 42-day period. So you're decreasing your income. Second, if you look at the second row, it says calves responding to the vaccination. 21% of those calves did not respond to the vaccines. So if you spend $10 per calf on vaccines, 21% of your group of calves did not respond. You might as well just inject water on them. And then the third row, that the calves that did respond to the vaccination, they actually produced less antibodies. So in theory, you're sending a calf to a commercial feedlot that has a weaker immune system. We can debate about this all day, but in theory, that's what you would expect. Okay? So yes, you're reducing your labor by half, but look at the impact that you're getting on performance. So because of that, we did not want to give up. We still wanted to pursue this route, because if we can find some way that producers can reduce the frequency of supplementation without seeing those negative effects, that's going to be a huge impact for them. So we tried several things. The first study that we did was decreasing the amount of supplement. It didn't work. We still had the same negative responses. But now look at page 7 in table 2. Okay? That's a study that we tried something very simple. So the most stressful time for a calf, you guys know, is right after weaning. And then you have fetal entry and vaccination. Sometimes those events happen on the same day. So what we saw was that when we decreased the frequency of supplementation right after those events that occur, we actually made a stress response worse. That's why we decreased performance and their immunity. So our idea was, what if we feed them daily during this short period of stress? So once they overcome this stressful period, we can reduce the frequency of supplementation. That's very simple and logical to do. So that's what we did. I'm not going to spend much time more on that. If you look on table 2, we did not affect their performance, and we did alleviate some of the negative effects that we observed. Okay, so that is one strategy that we can apply. The second study that we're doing right now, and my master's student Glazy is there in North Carolina right now running this study, so I don't have all the data yet. You guys notice that most of those preconditioning programs, they require vaccination after weaning. Okay, and vaccination, we know that it causes a stress response, an inflammatory response in the animals. But what about the producers that vaccinate before weaning? Right? Do we see the same negative impact of decreasing the frequency of supplementation if we vaccinate them before weaning? Maybe not. We don't know that yet. That's what we're doing right now in North Carolina. And in December, I'll have the data to share with you. Okay? Now, what are the plans for research next year? You guys probably heard about the topic called fetal programming, right? Dr. Cliff Lamb actually has, if I'm not wrong, he has an article this month at the Cattleman and Livestock Journal. This is the concept that the nutrition of a pregnant cow affects how they're going to perform in the future, how the calf will perform in the future. So why do I like this topic? Because it has a lot of implications to the beef industry. So just take a quick look at page 80, okay, table 3. These are 3 studies, page 80 on table 3. These are 3 studies that looked at pre-calving supplementation of cows. 1 pound of a protein supplement for the last 90 days of gestation. And then they follow the calves after birth and look at their performance. So what you can see there is that the steers born to cows that received 1 pound of protein supplementation during late gestation, they were heavier at weaning, heavier at slaughter, and had greater carcass weights. Now look at table 4. Those are the heifers born to the same cows. Okay, now heifers that were born to cows that received the protein supplementation before calving, they were heavier at weaning, achieved puberty earlier, and had greater pregnancy rates. Now, can you tell me how many of those studies were actually done in Florida? With cattle having Bos indicus genetics and grazing warm season grasses? You have a guess? 0. So honestly, really, we cannot say that this is going to occur here until we run this type of studies. Maybe our cows, they are more adapted and they don't have the same kind of response. Maybe they do, or maybe we're going to see even better responses. So that's why we're focusing this topic. And so we submitted 2 proposals to the Cattlemen's Association. One of them I included in the proceedings, so you guys can read it once you go home. But the idea is using year-round supplementation of cows. Does that pay off? What is the impact on future calf performance? And the second one is late gestation supplementation of cows, right? Similar to the ones that I just mentioned. Is it worth it, and what are the impacts on the calf? Why these data are important, we're going to set the scenario, and then we can extrapolate. We're going to see how much supplement we used, what was the performance, and then we can extrapolate what would be the best scenario, how much we need to pay for the supplement in order to make it work. Okay, so with that, that's all I had to say, and thank you very much again.